What's going on, everyone? So, the Los Angeles Lakers need to kind of upgrade and fill in that slot at the starting three. Offensively, the Lakers are ridiculous. Defensively, there's some real concerns. It'd be nice to kind of have a better, more slotted kind of three, where Rui is a four, kind of masquerading around as a three, right? Defensively, he's had his moments, right? He's tries. I love Rui. I hate to see Rui go, but for being honest, right, Rui he's not suited at the 3 for what the Lakers need. Now, in a perfect world, if you get that balance of a legit 3 and D wing and get a guy that has the size and the defensive capabilities and also can score the basketball, then that's the best of both worlds, which is why Andrew Wiggins is a guy that makes so much sense. Andrew Wiggins has the size, strength, the physicality, right? You can knock down the three ball. You can defend essentially 1 through 4 on some occasions, right? And he's a guy that could be that kind of perimeter help slotted alongside out there. The problem is Miami wants everything, right? They want Rui Hachimura, they want Dalton Connect, and they want the Lakers' first round pick, which is it's too much for Andrew Wiggins. It doesn't make sense for Andrew Wiggins. I'm one of those people, I don't mind overpaying if it makes sense, right? The Mark Williams trade, for example, was an overpay. Everybody was like, it's an overpay, but it made sense. It was justified. Lakers didn't have a center. You potentially get your franchise center in that trade. And it's like, hey, you're trying to go win a championship right now, which if they do land Mark Williams, who knows what happens? Maybe they do, right? Because now Rudy Gobert's not going to look like prime Shaquille O'Neal against the Lakers because they'd actually have some resistance down there on the inside. So for the Lakers, it made sense to maybe make that move and make that overpay. Well, I don't think it's worth it for an Andrew Wiggins, right? So what other guys are out there that could make some sense? And one guy that I would, at least if you're the Lakers, pick up the phone, make a call to, is the Charlotte Hornets for Miles Bridges, right? They have their young core. They are carving out their young guys, and they're going to need to free up that spot, particularly the 3 spot, at some point. I'm not saying they have to necessarily do it right now, but Miles Bridges checks off every box. He's a better defensive player than Rui Hachimura. He was almost 2 points better defensively than Rui Hachimura last year, and that was on the Charlotte Hornets, who were one of the worst teams and one of the worst defensive teams in all of basketball, right? So, and he was a 20-point-a-game scorer, and so he gives you the scoring, he gives you the shooting, gives you the defense, gives you the size. He's also 27 compared to Andrew Wiggins, and on top of that, he even lines up beautifully to what the Lakers are trying to do, which is preserve cap space for 2027. His contract, he'd be due a new contract in 2027. So he has the same length of years as Andrew Wiggins. He's younger, a guy that can score the basketball, a guy that can defend, a guy that is big enough to slot in really at either forward spot if you want. I think you strongly consider looking at a Miles Bridges and see if maybe you could do that. I would, let's say it's Andrew Wiggins or Miles Bridges. One, probably prefer Miles Bridges just for the long-term approach. Andrew Wiggins, I think, as far as like the short-term, he's just more experienced in those spots, in those moments. He was, second best player on the Warriors on a championship run. But I think Miles Bridges is a guy that is I think he gives you all the same needs, all the same versatilities. He's a guy that, just like Andrew Wiggins, can go off and have a night. I mean, he's had 40-point nights, all of that, right? So I look at a guy like a Miles Bridges, and I'm like, he gives you everything that you want. But now let's say it was, Andrew Wiggins, Miles Bridges, but you have to give up Dalton Connect, Rui Hachimura, and a first, right? Who would you rather have? Let's say that's the rate regardless, right? I'd rather have Miles Bridges. I think you can justify that more with Miles Bridges than you can with a Andrew Wiggins, because you have like 4 extra years with Miles Bridges than you do. And your hope is to land somebody like that, and also you look at Andrew Wiggins and Miles Bridges as far as like contract wise go. Miles Bridges is making $25 million this year. So his contract's even slightly less. So you'd still have to send out essentially the same players, right? Rui, Dalton Connect, and Gabe Vincent. But here's the thing. You free up 2 roster spots and you clear off more money than you would for an Andrew Wiggins, which is the difference between you getting a Bradley Beal and, a Nikola Vucevic if he ends up getting bought out, right? Chicago's looking to maybe add a center, and they may end up looking to buy him out. So to me, it's like you get an upgrade, you get a long-term answer, right? Again, Miles Turner is young enough to be that foundation piece alongside, especially if DeAndre Ayton works out, DeAndre Ayton, Luka Doncic, and then you could have Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges is the same age. Also, you got to keep in mind, PJ Washington situation. I think you could get something very similar, if not maybe even better, with Miles Bridges, right? PJ Washington was not really known as this defensive stopper, was not really known as this defensive player. He was looked at as a guy that could get you buckets, but, it's basically it, right? And then he went to a team like Dallas and literally became their defensive anchor because it's different, right? Like, it's one thing when you're on a team like Charlotte where you're losing by 20 every night and you're one of the worst teams in basketball, as opposed to going to Dallas and now you're a championship contender and you're trying to play for an NBA championship, and it's like now defense is important. It's hard to want to buy in and be the best defensive player out there when you're not playing for anything, right? You're playing for the number one pick rather than a Larry O'Brien, right? So to me, you saw that with PG Washington. I think you get something similar with Miles Bridges, where it's like, hey, dude, like you were okay defensively. We need you to be great. We need you to buy in defensively. We need you to be that guy that is switchable, that's defending. We need you to take some pride on the defensive side and take on that challenge of I want the best player every night. Right? I would love to get Miles Bridges. I've wanted Miles Bridges for years now, but Charlotte has more and more of an incentive now to go and trade Miles Bridges because they're going to need to kind of free up roster space for some of these players that they got, right? So to me, I look at it and I'm like, okay, you're going to have to pay and pony up no matter what, right? Well, I'd rather pay and pony up for a Miles Bridges. Now, obviously, look, if Miami is willing to drop their price and Miami goes, like, okay, fine, we'll do it for just, connect, then, maybe you do something like that, right? And some people might look and go like, why would Charlotte even trade with you, right? Because of the Mark Williams situation, right? Why would they trade Miles Bridges to you if they were going to trade Miles? Because, again, you're overpaying for the guy, right? But again, it's justified and makes sense because you need that guy, but he's also young enough to be a part of your core and foundation for the future. And we've already seen Charlotte has no problem moving off of those kind of guys. You look at kind of this roster and this team, right? They have several guys now that are going to play that spot. They just drafted Kneppel, right? They also have Saloon. They have Brandon Miller, who's going to have to slot in and very likely play that spot, right? They went and got McNeely, right? Like they have Josh Greenstead. Like they have several guys that are younger, that are supposed to be a part of their future and foundation, right? That, hey, it would make sense to get off of Miles Bridges. You get a guy in a Dalton Connect they really want it. They really like Dalton Connect. So you get Dalton Connect and you get the first in the deal too, right? You got to take, and you get Rui Hachimura. I mean, Rui Hachimura could be that. Like, if you want to kind of wing your young guys in, or go flip Rui Hachimura. Maybe it's a 3-team deal, and you're turning Rui into something to go and get Miles Bridges, right? Whatever you do. But if I'm the Lakers, I bare minimum am picking up the phone and at least having that conversation, right? Like, hey, what do you want from Miles Bridges, right? We're looking, we're turning over every stone, right? Like, we know what they want for Andrew Wiggins. We're looking for that. What do you want for Miles Bridges? Maybe you even get it cheaper. Maybe they're like, hey, give us Rui in a first, or go flip Rui. Let's do a 3-team. Find a team that's willing to send us a first or something for Rui Hachimura, and even if it's protected or whatever, find a team that'll do that, and we'll make the trade. Right? Maybe you're sending Connect in one of those, and you're able to keep it. Who knows? Who knows what they're willing to do? Who knows what the Charlotte Hornets are thinking? And we've already seen that they're willing to move off of guys, right? And I mean, you can even put it in like, hey, we won't even go put him through a medical trade. Right? Like, we won't even evaluate. Like, just bring him on, right? Because he's that guy that you need. But I want to kind of go over like what Miles Bridges provided. Again, this is a guy that will get you literally 40 on any given night. But you look at last year. All right, last year, 64 games played, 64 games started. The year before that, he played 69 games. The year before that where he played, because remember, he sat out for a year in 2022, 2023 because of off-court issues. He did play 80 games and started 80 games. But last year, 64, started 64, 32 minutes per game, 17 field goal attempts per game, shot 43.1% from the floor. Three-point shooting. He's a career 34% three-point shooter. He was only 31% last year, but he's had years where he shot, for example, in Charlotte, he took 4.4 attempts and shot 40% from three-point range, right? I think slotted alongside Luka Doncic, I'm not saying he's going to shoot 40%, but can he be 37% from three-point range? I mean, look at Rui. Rui wasn't this like lights out three-point shooter until he got with the Lakers. And then you're playing alongside LeBron James and Luka Doncic, and the quality of shots that you're getting is just completely different, right? So something like that to keep in mind. 2-point range, 51.3% on 10 attempts. He had an EFG of 49.5%. Free throw shooting, he was 87% on 4 attempts, grabbed 7.5 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, a block, and 20.3 points per game. And again, even with Charlotte as the small forward in which he played the entire season, 69 games, this was the year previous, 69 games played, 67 games started, played almost 38 minutes per game, 17.5 attempts, so roughly the same attempts, 46.2% from the field, shot 35% from 3 on 6.5 attempts, 11 attempts from 2-point range, shot 53% from the floor, had an EFG of 52.7%, shot 82.5% from the free throw line on 3.1 attempts, grabbed 7.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, a steal, a block, or half a block, and 21 points per game. Again, gives you defense, gives you scoring, gives you offense, gives you everything. Go get Miles Bridges if you can. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. As always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Love to hear it either way. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me not. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.